So going back to the successful people are walking anxiety disorders harnessed for productivity, you have been around an awful lot of hyper successful people. Is this par for the course in your experience? The upper echelons of the richest, most successful people on the planet, are they also on average driven by that same sort of compulsion?
Well, I think this is a really annoying word right now, but trauma, right? A parent who mistreated you, a teacher who told you couldn't do it. Everybody has a chip on their shoulder. And the investor Josh Wolf has a great saying. He says, chips on shoulders put chips in pockets, right? So often people who have a chip on their shoulder go to achieve great things because they're trying to prove something to the world. And I think that some people have uppercase T trauma and some people have lowercase t trauma. For me, I have lowercase t trauma. My dad didn't make enough money growing up. My parents fought about money. My solution to that was make money and everything will be good. Well, it didn't work out that way. But I think that, you have someone like Elon Musk who he's on the spectrum and his dad, was physically and emotionally abusive to him. He's just way more successful than I am. And so I think what I've found is that most people are a result of something complex inside of them. And, who else but a complex person spends their entire life trying to launch rockets into space or, Bezos trying to deliver a package slightly faster than
What did you
everybody else.
expect?
Yeah. Oh, what did I expect?
No, like what would you expect of this? But would you expect them to just be a simple, happy-go-lucky human? They don't ever notice any concerns. How many people have you found that have managed to achieve some degree of worldly success in the well-balanced, I'm driven by a desire to do well, but not a sense of insufficiency, there's no hypervigilance, there's no underlying anxiety disorder? How rare has it been to find people like that?
I think they exist, but I think if you ask their kids, they would tell you that they're crazy in some way. I think a lot of people are very good at appearing that way. And I think that one of the fascinating things about rich people is you see grandiosity and then you see grandiose humility. So what I mean by that is people who are grandiose, they have the $500 million yacht, this 10 houses, you go to the Oscar parties, whatever. And then you see people who wear the Casio watch and they're humble and they, live in the house in Omaha or whatever it is. And I think they're two different forms of, they go one way or the other, right? And I think even the people who go grandiose humility, they still make a point of everybody seeing, look, I'm wearing the Casio watch. Aren't I so humble? Right. Not to criticize. I think you really only have two options. You can either be extreme or you can
signal or counter signal.
Exactly.
Choose your direction, Western man.
Yeah.
What did you learn? You've spent some time with Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett. What have you learned from being around guys that are so lindy in the way that they've existed?
Well, I think that they have a singular obsession. Warren Buffett, his wife, talks about how he really had nothing in his life outside of reading annual reports and running his business. He's so incredibly obsessed with being the world's best businessman and investor. And I think that's great for him, but I think when I read about Warren Buffett, I decided that I wanted to be like him. I was running all these companies and I was super stressed out and miserable and dealing with people problems constantly. And when I read about Buffett, I was like, oh my God, this guy, he's abstracted business away. All he does is read all day and relax. And then he buys a couple companies every year. And I tried to do the same thing. I got an office and I was away from everybody and I had CEOs running all my companies. Well, I couldn't read an annual report for more than 30 minutes without losing my mind and wanting to go send a bunch of emails and talk to people and do stuff. So I think that you want to make sure you're playing a game where you would naturally play it either way. And in that instance, that wasn't for me. I have a different version of investing that I enjoy, and it's much more people-centric.
And what about Charlie?
Charlie, he is truly somebody who did whatever, he said whatever he wanted, he did whatever he wanted, and he also just lived incredibly humbly. Like I remember going to his house, in LA, I've gone to lots of people's fancy houses in LA, and usually somebody with his net worth, I think it was like 6 billion or something at the time, they've got like helicopter pads and creepy statues and $20 million pieces of art everywhere or whatever. Munger lived like a wealthy dentist. You know, he lived in a normal neighborhood in a house that he designed in the 1950s. And really, I think what he loved was building machines that worked and figuring out what didn't work and avoiding it. And he's just a learning machine. I mean, back to the point of building a life that you want, all he did was read. That's all he did. Every time I'd go to his house, he's just sitting there with a stack of books,
Hmm.
and he's just devouring, 4 or 5 hours a day of reading. And not that many people can do that. There's a reason why they're so wise and so successful.
You must have seen that clip that got circulated about a month ago where Warren was doing part of the report and then turns to his left and says, "Charlie, you see this?" So sad, man.
That was sad. I think it's really hard. They had such a great rapport, those two.